Hey everyone, welcome to my reader's journal where today I'm going to be going over They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. And y'all, I've got to say, this has got to be one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. It's not some classical masterpiece, but everything that this book had to do in order for it to be good, it did, and it did it so well that both times I've read it, it's left me heartbroken in the best way possible. So this book was first published in 2017. The first time that I read it was back in 2019 or 2020, essentially right before it got big on TikTok. And the second time that I read it was actually 2 weeks ago because I decided to read this book again since I had just finished reading The First to Die at the End, which I'll do a separate video for. But both times that I read it back in 2019 ish to now, I am absolutely floored with how good it is. You can tell that Adam really took his time building this world, building these characters, and it shows on the book everything from the characters to the character arcs, the setting, the scenes that were written, and the whole world that he's built. Like, it all has depth to it that I really love, and I haven't seen much now. I know it's not a contemporary book, but essentially besides the world that it's placed in, it's pretty much a contemporary romance. And I haven't seen that much in depth and care for the characters and their arcs as I do in this book. And that's why I like it so much. The growth that the characters have is really what brings it home to me at the end of the day. So, if you don't know what this book is about, it's essentially a story of two boys who become friends on their last day alive. And it basically goes through them growing to be the people that they want to be. Everything else in the book is great, but the character development, the character arcs, to me, that is what I love the most about this book. It's what I really gravitated towards. And essentially, it's what leaves you heartbroken at the end of the book. One thing that I also do have to acknowledge and praise is the fact that this book has so many multiple points of views. And normally, that is very iffy when I read a book, or like when I see it, I am not sure how to feel about it because sometimes some authors will excel at it and do it very well. Some authors will not do it well in the sense that they focus too much time on certain side characters as opposed to the main characters, or they spend unnecessary time with different character points of views, or their points of views don't really shine on their own. But to me, Adam does the points of views so well because everything is connected in one way or another. And even up until the end, you see the thread lines of why including the multiple points of views is so important. So that's pretty much all that I have to say that's non spoilery. So if you don't want to get spoiled because you haven't read this book, now's the time to click away. But for those of us that have read it already, I do have to talk about certain stuff that I can't say without spoiling it. So I'm gonna give you like 5 seconds. All right. So first things first, I have to talk about the deaths. Adam has to have the biggest cojones to title a book. They both die at the end. Write a book where the characters go through very deep character growth. They have amazing character arcs. You essentially get attached to the characters, and then he pulls the trigger at the end, metaphorically. I have never experienced this in my life where I was so attached to a character that when they passed away, I was flabbergasted and I was sincerely upset. Now, I knew it was going to happen because it's in the title. You can't go into this book thinking that they're going to live because it's in the title. They're going to die. But the fact that I got so attached to these characters and what they were going through that then when it happened, I was like, bro. What also makes the death so powerful is the fact that they're so mundane. They're things that you can see yourself dying through. You can see other people dying through these causes pretty much every day. So the first one to die is Mateo. And the reason why he died is because he turned on the stove. The stove that had a messed up burner. Even though we all knew, you knew, I knew, Mateo knew, we all knew that the stove was messed up. And for 1 second, he forgot. And that's all it takes. 1 second. He forgot. And the second he turned it on, he was like, oh, wait, I shouldn't have done that. But it was too late because it was already on and the thing blew up and he died because of it. That caused so much paranoia in me after I read that because sometimes I'll be at the stove and I'll turn on a burner and it'll take like 3 seconds for it to actually light up. Like it'll do that. I'd get paranoid. I'd be like, is it about to like blow up? Like, why aren't you on right away? And then on the other side, you have Rufus's death, which is also very common and very mundane. Like he stepped onto the road, and even though it's not explicitly said, it's very much implied that when he got on the road, he was run over by the character Victor. And again, that's something that's very common. A lot of people get run over. A lot of people get on roads without really looking. A lot of people are speeding and won't see someone step onto the road. That's something that's very common. And I think that it was very well done. I think that it was a very good choice for Adam to make the deaths that the characters go through very common and very mundane in order for it to really impact us. So for me, what really breaks my heart when I read this and when I finish it is just the simple fact that Mateo and Rufus are two characters who are flawed, and you see that right at the beginning, and they go through a lot of growth, both personally and socially and emotionally. And you see that at the end of the book, they're becoming the person that they want to be. And that to me is really what breaks my heart because they've also been developing a strong friendship that they didn't have before. And it's not even the romance. Like to me, the romance is a nice touch and I like it. But if this book had only been about friendship, it would have had the same impact for me. If it was just friendship and it didn't have a romantic aspect to it at the end, I would have still been saying the same thing. I still would have been praising everything that the book had done because at the end of the day, the friendship that they have, the growth that they had together, but also individually, was enough to really make this book shine. And what I liked about the romance was the fact that it was so light, it was so brief. Like he gives us a little moment, just a little touch of what the romance could be if they had more time. And I even like the fact that, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it was Rufus that mentions that he can see himself falling in love for Mateo. Like they've only known each other for less than a day, but they've spent so many hours together that their friendship and their connection had really grown that he can see himself actually falling in love for this person. So it acknowledges that, yeah, right now it's not love. Like there's a strong connection and he cares for Mateo, but it's not love. But he can see himself falling in love. And the scenes that we get that have that romance aspect are very, again, very light, very brief, and it's just a nice window that you can see. And that's what makes it even more tragic at the end when they don't have that future together. I'm pretty sure it was Rufus or both Mateo that mentioned that if they hadn't grown the way they have, if Mateo didn't put himself out there, and if Rufus didn't scale it down and become the nice and caring person that he was in the past and wanted to be again, if they hadn't done that, they acknowledged that they probably wouldn't have given each other the time of day they probably wouldn't have met, and this connection that they have wouldn't have happened. All right, so I've been mentioning the character growth, so I think it's time to really get down to it. What I really liked about the character growth is that it felt very natural. It felt very real. So first I'm gonna start with Mateo. Mateo is a character that is very shy. He's very reserved. He's very afraid of the world. And to me, he's the character that I really related to the most because I myself am a introverted person. I'm a reserved kind of person, not to the extreme that Mateo was showcased in the book. Like, I do have my friends and I go out and I have my fun and everything, but socially there are times when I feel out of the loop because I don't really put myself out there as much. And because I don't put myself out there as much, I do feel that social divide between my friends and I. And that's also kind of why I decided to do this channel, because even though, again, I'm doing this by myself, it's still me putting myself, or at least a part of me, out there, right? I read books. I've always read books, but I don't really have people to talk to about books. And what I like about doing this channel, about doing these reviews, is the fact that I'm able to sit down here and actually talk about the book in a way that I am not really able to. So back to Mateo, seeing him be that shy, afraid, and reserved and introverted teenager, and little by little he starts putting himself out there. First, he downloads the Friends app to find a friend, and he invites the person over. He's not ready to go outside just yet, but he does that step, and then eventually Rufus helps him get out of the apartment. And little by little, he starts becoming more and more outgoing, or at least more comfortable making extroverted choices. And we see him really become the person that he wants to be. He talks about being more outgoing, he talks about being more friendly, and we see him be that person right at the end. On the other hand, we have Rufus, who at the very beginning of the book, we are introduced to him by him beating up a kid. And what I really liked about this decision is the fact that for the rest of this book, we don't see that side of him. This part of the book, the beginning part where it shows us this side, it really shows us the version that he could have become if he didn't get the phone call from Deathcast. If he had never gotten that phone call, if he didn't meet Mateo, then he would have continued being this vengeful, hateful, and aggressive kid that he wasn't in the past. He used to be caring and nice, and he had his family. But ever since that was taken away from him, he had this hateful side to him. And what I really liked about his arc is the fact that you see him become that person that he wanted to be. He wanted to be nice again. He wanted to be caring. And those aspects are still a part of him. So it's not that he needed to learn to be nice. He just had to accept it more. He had to really not give in to do anything hateful. Like, he wanted to be the person that he was before, and that was a nice and caring person, and I really like that. All right, so the last thing that I have to go through before I wrap up this video is basically the world building of this book. I really like the world that Adam had built. The fact that there is some company that calls you between midnight and like 2 in the morning, maybe three at the latest, but I think it's two, between 12 to 2, to inform you if you're going to die in the next 24 hours. I think that's interesting, and it poses a lot of questions, and it also gives a lot of opportunities for people to live out their day or their final hours the way that they want. And that's really the selling point of this program, of this company, that knowing that you're going to die in the next 24 hours, sometime between there, you are in charge of how you're going to spend your day. You can make amends the way that you should be making amends. You can talk to the people that you want to talk to. You can do what you want. And when you think about our world, people die unexpectedly. You don't know if someone is going to be dying today, or if they're going to die tomorrow, or next week, or next month, or next year. And there's a lot of stories, and I know people personally that didn't have that chance to say their goodbye to someone that they lost, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, or a coworker, or someone else that they knew. They didn't have that chance to say goodbye, and that's something that this world essentially fixes. So overall, I think that he really gave us enough to really enjoy this world and the aspects that it has, but also not enough for me to have more questions to me, for me to be curious about the logistics and have more questions about the world. So I did like the world building. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and comment down below if you read this book and let me know what you thought. Subscribe to see future videos, and that is it. Thank you so much.